Hey there, welcome to episode 140 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo, recording this at 8:24 in the morning, a.m., Pacific time, Friday, October 31st, 2025. Happy Halloween, and more importantly, Happy Nevada Day 2025. That is a real thing. It doesn't get a lot of attention. It's a state holiday, not a national holiday. Kind of like Nevada Family Day, the Friday after Thanksgiving. Also not always on the radar. So yes, Happy Nevada Day 2025. Why are we going to talk about that today? We're not going to talk about the history so much, a couple of things, but so that's the thing. If you're not familiar with the Cafe Genius audio program, Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, I should say, or the Cafe Genius sort of undertaking, here's a quick intro. Cafe Genius is it's not a corporation, it's not a nonprofit, it's just a project, it's a label attached to some efforts to understand in more detail our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem and to take some actions to elevate parts of it. Got started with the pitch workout room at Tech Alley in January of 2022. Kind of needed a name for the effort. Pitch mingle, pitch workout, not in that order. What else? The Genius Roundtable, the Downtown Project Retrospective, I have all the questions, so we'll get that going pretty soon now. And a rolling introspection and some others. So basically just looking at how our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem works with some other aspects, which I've talked about through many, many episodes of this very audio program. The name comes from Cafe Centro, a coffee shop which is unfortunately no longer in business, in the San Francisco Bay Area, in South Park, which is an actual park, in the city of San Francisco, across the street from the ballpark, which is today the Oracle ballpark. It used to be the Pac Bell ballpark, then it was the AT&T ballpark, Oracle ballpark. And you kind of have to find, there's a little side street of sorts called South Park. You go in there, there's a little park, and there once was a little coffee shop where startups start. Famously where Jack Dorsey was working on Twitter. Whether he's the true founder or not is another discussion for another time, but Cafe Centro, spelled with two F's, Caffe, as is Cafe Genius, an homage of sorts. The Greater Vegas area needs some Cafe Centros. It probably already has some. We just haven't really pointed a finger at them. We will at some point. And Genius is a look back at the Genius lunches we used to have here in the downtown project area. I was never a part of the downtown project per se. I was more of a spectator, but when I was in town for my travels for Intel Corporation and the Maker Innovator Group, I would often get invited to sit around with the local entrepreneurs and innovators who were getting it done. Didn't have all day to hang out for free lunch, rather just meet up for lunch. An hour and a half, chit chat, gossip, what's up, what's down, who's up to what, where things headed, etc. As a great idea, we'll eventually get people interested enough to restart that for 2026 maybe. 2025 was kind of a bust across the board. Initiative 2025, we've talked about that before. We'll bring that back up again for 2026. And the Impresarios audio program, this one. Well, Impresarios spelled with two S's, of course. Those are the people that are actually doing the things. So this is an audio program about those people, maybe occasionally including those people. Maybe we'll return to doing interviews and conversation again. We did that back in the early episodes. And what impacts the people doing these things, the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem and its moving and maybe not moving so well parts. So let's, hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains these show notes, including a summary, which I will read. It's about 2 sentences, and the links for today's episode. And now I interrupted myself by saying, let's get on with it, because it is Friday. It is a state holiday. You're probably not listening to this on Halloween or Nevada Day, but so much the better. You should be out enjoying and listen to this when you're on a treadmill on Saturday, perhaps. Anyway, let's get on with the show. The show notes, in fact, here's today's summary. It is Halloween, yes, but today is also another anniversary of Nevada joining the Union, becoming another of these United States, a state holiday, so we will try to keep it brief on this special day, on the special birthday, in fact. The links for today's episode, we've cut down the shameless self-promotion links to merely to cafegenius.org, CAFFEGENIUS, Cafe Genius, no space, period, org. That's where you'll find links to this audio program. And I need to move some of this stuff from the old website over. That was about the pitch workout room and pitch mingle and whatnot. All of the websites for all of my audio programs will continue to be works in progress forever. And some of the stuff I've got working is not visible yet. The site is still ugly, but it will be more beautiful. Perhaps the next time you visit it, it will look even better than the time before. Your host, that's me, has a profile page linking everything. The buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo profile page. You're under no obligation to spend any money, but if you do visit that page, you will find links to all of the things I work on, including my various audio programs. I do produce one different audio program every day of the 5 days of the week, and then the coffee solo program whenever. Probably make one today. So links to all those are there, as well as links to my various projects that I'm working on, a little bit of biographical information, and affiliate links to products I actually use, including some of my favorite coffee beans. Those are available on Amazon, but some other links are not Amazon, depending on where you land on Amazon. Again, no obligation to click on or pay or buy or anything. But I do keep that page around for about 5 years now as a sort of an anchor point to link everything together. It's a free-form profile page, kind of like Linktree. And there is the Buy Me an Update audio program published on Monday mornings. That's sort of a cheat because it's only 5 minutes or less, but it's a quick rundown on the previous week's audio programs and news and announcements upcoming. So under 5 minutes, you can squeeze that in, see what's going on. The next three are about today, the Nevada Day Wikipedia page. I'll remind you, Wikipedia is a great place to begin your search for knowing and understanding and comprehending, but it's not always the best place to end. So I'll simply say Nevada Day Wikipedia page has some useful information to get you started if you're curious about the history of Nevada statehood. As well, the Nevada Wikipedia page, a lot of information about Nevada. Some of it's out of date, including the ranked list of employers, which is from 2011. That really needs an update drastically. Allegedly, now these are not employee percentages or employment percentages, but as a component of the economy, apparently gaming, the fun economy, if you will, that's trademarked. The fun economy is about healthcare is 25%. And I think that's number 2. So gaming, the fun economy is more than 25%, but it is not the ranked list of employers looks like Clark County School District, Washoe County School District, Clark County. I think that's actually number 2. And then the rest are gaming companies, casino, the resorts that you're probably familiar with. Probably not true today, but otherwise a useful starting point once again to learn more about the state of Nevada, not Nevada. No, Nevada. Finally, I just saw this YouTube video 2 days ago, I think it was, the 29th maybe. Las Vegas is empty by design, and it is an interesting view. And I'll be honest, it sort of supports my case, but there's tons of things that support my case. But this one was reasonably well produced. The notion is, because I'm not really going to talk about this too much specifically, but the notion is that the price controversies that have made the news, that Las Vegas is now a luxury good, according to Bloomberg, that it's priced out most normal tourists and visitors. That's according to the internet. Like you'll see those headlines and hear people commenting, and they'll make YouTube videos about it and so on. The ridiculous prices of water. A bottle of water is $1 million. I mean, famously, the hotel in the room, your honor bar, quote unquote honor bar, or the refrigerator, if you touch anything, you could get billed for it, even if you don't remove it. There's sensors that detect motion of an item. So if you pick it up and put it back down, etc. Parking fees, resort fees, of course, are ridiculous. And any attempts to mitigate those fees from a legal perspective, during the previous presidential administration, I believe there was an executive order or some sort of action that was going to eliminate junk fees, and that's all back. So no shortage of fees and add-ons, making the typical visit to the Greater Vegas area, certainly the Strip, the typical fun economy destination, those have become only more and more and more expensive. And so we've seen headlines made around the world about the reductions in tourism to the greater Vegas area. I'll summarize it as about 10% during any particular month this year, 2025, as compared to the previous month. The previous year, same month. So some people will construct headlines to suggest that it's 10% from last month. So down another 10%. It's it's been between like 8 and 12, 11. So I'm just, simplify for the moment, 10%. So September, I think it was actually 8% in December, but in September, we'll say that it's, just say 10% down in September from September 2024. So it's not down from August. Okay, I think it's 8, but so if it's down 10%, 10%, 10%, it's not down now, adding to, well, you don't really add percentages, but it's not down 10% from last month. It's down 10% from this month, previous year. So that generally means that 2025 has just been down from 2024. Okay, it's not the end of the world, but it is noteworthy. People believe that the Vegas economy is a harbinger of the national economy, perhaps the global economy, especially related to tourism, but any tourism-related economic activities. If small businesses especially bank on flow of visitors to a region, and if that looks like it's going to be reduced, then that impacts, all sorts of economy factors. So interesting. But if you do watch that video, the suggestion is that there's a swing towards going for high value customers, the luxury good notion. And so by going for, you want to keep out the normal people. You want to only attract people who don't consider $1 million for a bottle of water to be a big deal. So if you're going after the billionaire class, not even the millionaire, the billionaire with a B, then you raise the room prices, you have these extravagant events like Formula One, and you perform road construction and other impediments to the normal foot traffic and flow of visitors to the area, and so on and so on. So if you watch the video, it was interesting. It's just one perspective, and I'm not necessarily endorsing it entirely, but I did find it interesting because I believe it kind of goes with my notion, which I'll talk about today, that we have an extraction economy over a cultivation economy. What does that mean? Well, on this Nevada day, let us ponder, but not too deeply, because A, I've talked about some of this before. I've just never used those terms. And B, that's what next week is for and the weeks after. So yes, to begin, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Nevada. Nevada became a state on October 31st, 1864, making today its 161st birthday. Well, congratulations. Another year gone by. I know if I were 161 years old, I would stop having birthdays and just have the parties. We don't need to mention big numbers. How old am I? I'm over 21, but that's me. It is a state holiday, so some things are closed, some things are not. This audio program does not focus on general history, nor on Nevada history in particular, outside of how it impacts our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. But there are two things that I think are important about Nevada. For these 161 years and longer before it became a state, that are relevant to our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem today, and we can touch on those today. Not everything is entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, though. I know I talk about that all the time. That is the focus of this audio program. Believe it or not, there are other things in the world. So celebration of another year gone by is great. Cheers to another 5 or 10. And originally I was going to say to another 161, but no. We should examine where things are in the next 5 years. And certainly 10, where we'll see where we are at 171, perhaps, if we're still here. So extraction economy. And I'm not trying to be mean. I think I'm trying to be objective. So take it for what it is. And if you would like to discuss, well, you know where to find me. Nevada is the silver state. One guess what one of the major outputs was back in those early days. And I have to be honest, I don't know what the silver mining economy is today. I didn't even look, but probably some. If you guessed silver, you might be onto something there. Extracting resources was important back then. Today we have the McDermott caldera, which has gotten a lot of attention, and the possibility of lithium mines being the next big thing. Those are big in batteries. I think silver was big in batteries. I don't remember what the redox factors are, but silver is certainly used in a lot of things other than jewelry and decoration. There are some chemical and engineering applications of silver. So silver mine's a big thing. Lithium mine's a big thing. It made Washoe County appear on the list of, I think it was 31 hubs of innovation in the Biden administration when they prepared a focus on innovation into the future. So the Southern Nevada area did not make the list, but congratulations to Washoe County and the McDermott caldera and the lithium mines and all that will come of them, and hopefully not stripping the world of its other natural resources to get to that lithium. We shall see. Although I am curious to see what happens with their various new battery technologies that won't depend on lithium, because I don't know if you've heard, but if you puncture a lithium battery and there's air around, so like not in a vacuum chamber, you could have a fire. And you can talk to Samsung about what happens when your batteries start to boil and expand and then puncture and explode on airplanes. Not good. So lithium, I don't know if I would hang my hat on lithium. It's an important thing though, so we have it. Change the tagline to the lithium state. Maybe that would make sense. Nevada was the equivalent of a flyover state, but with trains and other non-aircraft transit, basically to and from California. Let's be honest. Nevada is the westernmost state without a coastline. So when you really think about it, oh yeah, that's right. That the western part of the western edge of the state is to the west of Arizona and what's up there, Montana, Idaho, all that stuff. And so Oregon, Washington, California. I'm not looking at a map right now, so I'm picturing it. Oregon, Washington, California on the coast, and then Nevada juts over just enough so that it is the westernmost state, bounded state. The middle of the state is wherever it is, but the west edge of Nevada, farthest to the west without a coastline. Isn't that exciting? But that's important because that means people are on their way to where there is a coastline and where there is agriculture and production and transportation of goods into and out of. For the California economy, even back then, probably big bags of gold from the gold rush of 1849. That did play a pivotal role in the formation of the California economy, and including the innovation culture of the Silicon Valley area in the Bay Area. We talked about that in episode 85 of this very audio program. The state population has always remained rather low. Even today, it is only about 3 million people, with roughly 2/3 in Clark County, roughly 1/3 in Washoe County, and the balance in the rural remainder. So there are more than 2 counties in Nevada, but it's often Clark, Washoe, and rural. So everybody's kind of lumped together. I think that's kind of disingenuous, but that's the way it is. With the weather is relatively good year round in southern Nevada. It is a desert, but it's not quite like Phoenix, which I did grow up in Phoenix when I was younger. Moved away when I was 18, moved back for a while, but yeah, so I spent at least about 15, 17 years living in the Phoenix area. I know desert. We are not quite as high here, but if you have good weather year round, it makes transit through the area, train tracks and whatnot, easier than having to do a Donner Pass. And by the way, the Bay Area, some of the population of the Bay Area did travel through the Donner Pass to get to the Bay Area in the early days. When I lived in Sunnyvale, the Murphy family, it was actually the Murphy Townsend Party, but the Murphy family made up a chunk of that. They passed through the Donner Pass, but it was in the springtime. So they made it through without having to resort to unfortunate snacking. So yes, so Sunnyvale, California, based on transit through the Donner Pass, but that's more challenging. So if you could pass through the Las Vegas area, which became popular, and that led to Las Vegas, or the Las Vegas area, becoming a stop for train travelers and a great place to be entertained. So yeah, great. It's great for visitors passing through, which formed a part of the local economy. Thus, it was possible to focus on serving transit customers or people who were only visiting temporarily rather than focusing on building up communities in a place that was not necessarily overflowing with things like water and agricultural opportunity, except for cattle ranching, which remains a component of the state economy in those rural areas. So we got cows or a bovine economy. I don't know if they're all cows, maybe some bulls and steers in there mixed in. My opinion, we see this today in the spectacular focus on tourism, the fun economy, which again is trademarked in February of 2025 by the UNLV Office of Economic Development because it is very important. and one of the major economic indicators reported monthly by the LVCVA, that's the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Gaming revenue, that's what I was getting at. So they report gaming revenue every month. Now, this is the Convention and Visitors Authority tracking and reporting that data. So that's their thing. But it is noteworthy that despite there being other industries in Southern Nevada, which again account for over 60% of the state, Clark County accounts for more than 60% of the state population and a substantial source of revenue for the state. And again, if you give that video I linked a watch for some of the thoughts on the importance of the Las Vegas economy to the overall state economy, and a push towards economic diversification that commenced in earnest around 2018. That's very rough. I'm sure people were thinking about it before that, and which has only become more important, allegedly, since the pandemic lockdown and its economic impact due to a dramatic reduction in fun economy revenue. That is, reduction in tourism, people staying in hotel rooms and going out to eat in restaurants and so on. That was curtailed rather dramatically, in addition to gaming revenue, of course. The focus locally, statewide, and on the national and even international stages on that fun economy. People are really concerned about people coming here for gaming and gambling. There are whole YouTube channels that the producers, the stars of the content creators of these programs wander around the strip and point at crowds or lack of. Look, we're doing fine. Look, we're dead. Vegas is on the decline. No, Vegas is doing just great. Since many believe all this, because many believe Vegas numbers are easy and early indicators, so easily deduced visual inspection perhaps, and early indicators of economic health at large. The way Vegas, so goes the world. The way Vegas goes, so goes the world. When it comes to tourism and local economies and downturns and so on. People would suggest that you don't go to Vegas if you don't have money to lose. That's maybe true. Maybe you just want to come to Vegas to see a show or participate in a convention or go hiking. There's a lot of things to do that are not gaming, but the gaming and tourism stuff is where data is captured and analyzed and interpreted. Now, the concern I would have, and the suggestion here, is it is not what Nevada is making, but how much Nevada is making or extracting from its visitors. So that's what they're really looking at. And this is the extraction economy. How much gaming revenue are we getting for people living here? Even though there has been claim about Hollywood 2.0 and the next Silicon Valley and a global innovation hub, and we're going to be a biotech hub also with the medical school starting at UNLV and some possibilities of bioresearch and so on. The thing that gets the attention is gaming revenue and hotel occupancy rates. It is the fun economy that actually matters. It's the fun economy that has the light shining on it. And the fun economy, even though it's supposed to be fun, it is about extracting revenue from people visiting. Extraction economy. Like a silver or lithium mine. You don't grow a silver or lithium mine, you extract from it. The other thing is the cultivation part, or lack thereof perhaps. Maybe it's because there are less of the key agricultural resources that would be, or agriculture, I wrote agriculture, but either way, resources that would be essential for an actual agrarian economy of consequence. But what I have seen in my 12 years, granted a blip on the timeline, only 12 years, and I've only been in Vegas. So my 12 years in Vegas, cultivation in general is a foreign notion. That's a little harsh, but that's what I've observed. I am making a blanket statement here, and this is not universally true, but statistically pretty close to true. That is, you're most likely to encounter this, but it is not. There are people there is cultivation happening here. Okay, so don't fly off the handle at me. But there's an awful lot of not cultivation happening. Our rankings in education and non-fun economy areas are kind of indicators, and I'm going to suggest once again that our culture of innovation is in dire need of cultivation, and I'm not convinced that it's actually happening. It's happening in little corners, in personal lots, if you like. Like, we're doing some innovation over here, we're doing some innovation over there, and so the culture is it's sprouting here and there, but you're not building at scale. You're not cultivating for for Greater Vegas to be a actual global innovation hub. You don't just wave your hands, post on LinkedIn, and call it a day. You actually have to do things, and there have to be people who appreciate, who participate in, and who continue to cultivate a culture of innovation. That's kind of a requirement, and I don't see a lot of people acknowledging that. This means people who live here, whether growing up or moving in, could lean into a mindset that innovation is interesting and possible, and that they could be a part of that rather than leaving it to someone else. And I've made comments on this many times. A true entrepreneur wants to solve problems. What I encounter in the Greater Vegas area is entrepreneurs waiting for someone else to do something. And I will say I have attempted to reach out to City of Las Vegas, Clark County, other entities within and without. And I don't wait for them, but I do reach out to them, I should say, about participation, collaborations, and so on for a few things, whether it's Cafe Genius related or Innovate for Vegas Foundation related. They are not responsive. This is, I think, a cultural thing. There's just a notion like, oh, we don't want to be a part of that until you have something for us to be a part of. So we're not in on the beginning where we would like to benefit later. And I've seen the City of Las Vegas do this explicitly a few times. Yeah, come to us when you have something. We're not interested in making something. We would like to extract value from you, not cultivate it. So this is a cultural fact of life in the Greater Vegas area, and maybe true in Reno, in the Washoe area as well. I've only heard anecdotes, and I have not lived in Reno, so I can't say from the first person, but I would still question it. It's always been that proximity to Silicon Valley has been a net positive for the Reno area, in particular, but for Washoe County, I don't know if that's true. Probably proximity to Lake Tahoe has been more consequential. I will say this manifests in the way that decisions are made in Southern Nevada, in my opinion, leaning heavily towards the fun economy priorities, reaching out to established companies for economic wins through relocation or establishing a presence in Southern Nevada to contribute to this economy. In other words, they want you to move to Nevada or move a presence, like start an office here. And, if you can't hire here, just import your talent. And I've talked about this before. I think that's still problematic. So they really want to reach out to established companies, and maybe as an afterthought, some claims about this so-called startup scene and the thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, which I see mentioned frequently. And I think I will sum it up by saying you can't call the same 300 people showing up for things thriving. They're alive. I'll give them credit for that. Obviously, I would like that to be the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem that's thriving, but it would only be allegedly thriving. We still have work to do. Posting on LinkedIn is not cultivation of the ecosystem, believe it or not, but that is what we see a lot of. Post on LinkedIn, get a lot of likes, a few comments. Yes, this is a great post. Yes, Nevada is going to change the world. Cultivation takes time. Extraction can take place at any time. Money appears within reach, of course. The same, we can use the mining analogy as well. When you find a deposit of lithium, you have found it. It's there, and you can begin extracting it. You didn't have to grow the lithium. It's there. It's there, or it is not. This is a fundamental tenet of the gaming industry and other forms of entertainment found in Southern Nevada, for examples. While cultivation really needed to start when Nevada became a state, and actually before, but that the technology and innovation revolution was not foreseen with the scope and grandeur we have today as a possibility. Maybe they just said, we just focus on tourism and servicing our customers that are passing through. And I believe that's pervasive today. Stanford University was founded on November 11, 1885. And as we talked about in episode 85 of this very audio program, has played an important, I would say, that's an understatement, role not only in the Silicon Valley era, but in the cultivation of the innovation culture of the area in general, which dates back as long or longer. Yeah, so before Stanford University was there, but they certainly, Leland Stanford wanted to make an active contribution to that. By the way, Stanford is named for his son, not for Leland, but I think his son was 15 years old when he passed away, unfortunately. So there you go. Yes, capital played a role in Silicon Valley, and its history. And that means extracting profit from startups and tech companies and whatnot. So that's how capitalism works. That's how business works. But capital entered the picture of an already innovative culture. Kind of mixed metaphors there, but in the big picture, culture of innovation was already there, which we talked about again in episode 85. Here we have some work to do here in the greater Vegas area. I've talked about this quite a bit, but this is to be continued. As I said, today is a state holiday, and while you are not necessarily listening to this episode or program on October 31st, 2025, which is Nevada Day, you should be pondering as though you were. Where is the United States after 249 years? Approaching 250, maybe we'll get there. Where is Nevada at 161 years old as a state and as a country in these cases? And consider in both cases, those intervals are administrative. Both were around before. Nevada as a place, maybe not with the boundaries demarcated legally and with the statehood and all that, but the general region, the mindset, the resources and access to them, the focus on the extraction versus cultivation, given the limitations and what was available at the time and who was available at the time. And the United States, same deal and so on. And consider in both cases, those intervals are administrative again. So both were around before. How did they and have they evolved? How did they evolve and how have they evolved over those intervals? Like what's changed, what stayed the same? Certainly in the United States, a ton of things have changed. But in Nevada, has there been a lot of change? That's the question I'll leave for you. As I mentioned frequently, I am interested in our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem because I am in it. My success may well depend on it, or will be in spite of it, perhaps. Yours might as well. As I always also suggest, there will need to be real interest in the cultivation side, where most of what I see is on the extraction side of this equation. We can all watch the Formula One race run for the third consecutive year here and derive yet more empirical observations around how Southern Nevada views the role of the fun economy and the actions taken for one facet of it, professional sports and tourism. Everything around the Formula One event can be kind of a microcosmic view of how this area promotes and responds to the fun economy as a critical element of the overall economy, and how that impacts other aspects of the local economy, not always positively. And you can look at lawsuits from the previous 2 years about, or to get some more information about that, which we've talked about. How that relates to the overall ecosystem, the race and that mindset, and how much care and consideration is given to that relationship and outcomes. In other words, people celebrate the winners financially from something like a Formula One race, but they kind of forget about or ignore or underplay the losers. And sometimes the losers lose more than the winners win. So just like gaming in an extraction economy, we have already seen the previous 2 years as something of a disappointment across the board. There have been winners. There have been big winners, but yeah, ask around. You may find agreement with that view in general. In the meantime, I continue to look for ways to build up from ground level rather than wait for direction and authority from the top. That's the entrepreneurial thinking again. I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're waiting to be told what to do, you should rethink how you're using that term. I continue to question the competence of state, county, and city entities when it comes to implementing economic diversity plans with what I would view as an extraction mindset over one of cultivation. That's just in general. And again, you cannot simply post on LinkedIn or have a bunch of wealthy people over to your house and believe that you've changed the world. In fact, most of the conversation ends up being wishful or about extraction. Why would you move to Vegas? Well, you will extract more value from here and from people and so on, marketplace. I would like to see more people talking about how they will be a part of a cultivation effort to make a better Vegas. And in fact, if you look at the title of episode 85, it was Vegas as the next Vegas. How can you use innovation and the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem and its parts? The ecosystem itself is here or not, right? You just kind of do things that make it stronger, more vital or not. You are not going to make a savanna appear out of nowhere. An ecosystem is a very complicated and heavyweight thing. But what are people doing here to make that better, to improve the possibilities, the potential for positive and successful outcomes? If they're only focused on things that are not necessarily true or realistic. We're going to be the next Silicon Valley. No, we are not. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'll continue to repeat it anyway. I'm going to say it again today, but I'll continue to repeat it. We need 10 years to get to anything like a culture of innovation in which to enable and encourage continued success within our still emerging entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. And that clock really has not started ticking yet. So we are at 161 years since becoming a state. We are still not really moving through a 10-year timeline and 10 years comes from junior high school students in 7th grade becoming innovation aware with a curriculum and a general focus and encouragement to think entrepreneurially and around innovation and not a workforce training mindset, which has been true in the Southern Nevada area for a long time. And at some point, I actually found a bunch of information, and I've talked about this in a previous episode, that was the focus of our education system, was to train people to be a part of the fun economy, which was not called the fun economy at the time, but to be working casinos, hospitality, the service industry in general, or to be embedded within the economy as it was. It's time to lead the target. We should be thinking entrepreneurially and around an innovation mindset. And anyone can start that today. But a 10-year plan would include having 7th graders about age 12, and it could be before that. But somewhere around age 12, the junior high curriculum typically includes elective classes, switching classes, so teachers will teach a subject rather than teaching all subjects. You'll have students able to select different focal areas. They're starting to develop specific interests or potential future plans. What do you want to be when you grow up, sort of things. That is a great time to say, well, yeah, what do you want to be when you grow up? And let's enable you to experiment a little bit, to explore some possibilities. Do you want to be into robotics? Do you want to be into, I participated in a 7th grade class discussion about this when I was not in 7th grade. More recently, 7th grade students came up with all sorts of things that they would think about doing based on what their family does or based on just a general interest. You had all fields, all areas of interest. So that should be the beginning of a much longer conversation and a collection of enabling possibilities, classwork, extracurricular activities, elective possibilities, actual real projects that students could be involved in with consequential outcomes where they could actually learn from them. Tons of stuff still on the table. And in our extraction economy, well, there's no money to be made. Let's just post on LinkedIn and call it a day. I'll end my cynicism there. Happy Nevada Day. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.